What it do? Welcome to another new episode of Tech File. TEC holding it down for y'all this week. So without further ado, let's get on into it. Welcome to episode 339 of Technical File, the sports podcast you never knew you needed.
And it's your boy, TIMKINZ, the number 3, a.k.a. Ass Ketchum, a.k.a. Mr. Give It To Me. What up, though?
What up, though?
I am the Eric J.
Only known as?
The Eric J.
And I'm Camille, point guard of the crew, the real-life Tifa Lockhart, the girl next door, holding it down for all the women who love sports. Not joining us this week is Kay Harris, the gentleman, no Diddy. So we're going to hold it down without him this week. No game that needs a name, but I got to do the little housekeeping here and remind y'all, if you have not yet already subscribed to our YouTube page, please go ahead and do that. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified when we go live, when we record, especially now during playoff time where the days of recording might change, so on and so forth. So make sure y'all have that noti bell locked in. Shout out to Sly in the comments. He already here. Big yeet off in the comments real quick. So listen, the flow for this week's show, we are going to be doing an NBA playoff preview, taking a look back at some of the preseason predictions that we had, see how those panned out, and then make some predictions on the NBA playoff series that we know of. As we record this, the Heat and the 76ers are playing their 7-8 playing game. So we probably won't know who the winner of that game is, and therefore playing against the New York Knicks until towards the end of the show. So that'll be a playoff series we probably won't get to, but we got 5 to talk about tonight. So without further ado, let's get into this NBA news. Oh, I should have mentioned there will also be wrestling to end the show and some quick hits because some other things happen that we're going to discuss. But all right, NBA, 4 big questions as we are heading into this playoff stretch. When y'all look at how the teams finished in the standings, how does it compare to your preseason picks? And what stands out most to you? Tim, why don't you kick us off?
Boy. Yeah, I really only had like 2 what the fucks. Preseason for me, I had
and maybe
Milwaukee, Boston. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. No, for
I was gonna say it seemed like you were doing it.
It seemed like I was doing what? I'm good.
You got it.
I was like, for my preseason picks, I had Milwaukee, Boston, Cleveland, New York, Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, Indiana, Detroit, and Orlando. So Brooklyn was they didn't even have remotely close to the season I expected them to have. I had a little bit more ambition than Detroit had in themselves this year. A little more faith.
I was surprised you said Detroit in real time when we were having the conversation in the off. Like, why Detroit, fam?
Because they've had high draft picks for one. They've had high, good young talent coming in. They had at the time Bogdanovich. They had Burks at the time. They had a couple vets that were like, okay, they could probably help them a little bit, but I figured that the young talent would kind of take a little bit more of a step than it took. And that the effort would be a little bit more. I figured it'd be more fun L's, but they'd be able to fight. They'd be staying in some games, and I'm like, oh damn, Detroit they're kind of fun to watch, but they ain't winning enough, but enough to make them at least competitive for a play-in spot. God dang, bro, they had more streaks than motherfucking Nudist. Like, damn, it was, and it was losing. Like, it was terrible.
NBA record
games one
losing
time,
streak.
then they 25 another time, then they had some shit like that. Like, it was crazy.
28 games in a row that they lost.
Like, no, bro. Like, at some point,
Historically ass.
At some point, you're not at 28. They know. So I had a little bit more faith in what they were doing over there. I thought what they was trying to do over there. Like, damn, bro. Like, how many more top 5 picks you trying to get before y'all still just figure out that ain't none of this shit panning out? Because this is ridiculous.
How you're describing Detroit is similar to how I felt about Brooklyn, where I thought that Brooklyn was going to be competitive, have some fun L's, but like be able to kind of be in the play-in come the end of the season. But yeah, my predictions were pretty. I mean, I got most of the teams right, got the top 4 right. Just the order was mixed up. I had Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, New York, Philly, Miami, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Orlando, and Indiana. Indy and Orlando were way better than what I thought they were going to be. And like I said, I gave Brooklyn a little bit more love than they deserved. And shout out to Chicago for sneaking into the play-ins like they just seem to do annually at this point.
Yeah, I think that might have been the only one that I got wrong, is that I had Brooklyn at 10 instead of Chicago. And if I remember correctly, in the preview show, I was like, oh, I forgot about Chicago. And it's like, So, like, but yeah, like, my biggest one was that I was a homer for the Bucks, which I admitted in real time. But I could not have been more wrong regardless. Well, I mean, I could have. Like, the Bucks were still a 3 seed because it's not like they were, just ass. But, like, I thought that, much like everybody, I thought that the Giannis Dame Lillard pairing would be a lot more fruitful than it proved to be. I am not feeling good about basketball right now because I don't have high hopes for the Bucks headed into the playoffs. But that just means it'll be all the more sweeter when they win. Because like, I counted them out. They proved me wrong. So
we're gonna talk about it. Okay, all right. Well, that's the Eastern standings. As we all know, the real order of how it finished was Boston, New York, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, Philly, Miami, Chicago, and Atlanta. Now we head over to. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, one thing I forgot. I was right about Orlando. Like, I had them at 6, and I was relatively high.
To the West. All right. So for myself, I had Denver, the Lakers, the Suns, Kings, Grizzlies. I'm off to a terrible prediction start. The Mavericks, the Warriors, the Thunder, the Clippers, and the Timberwolves. I was really high on the Lakers coming into this season. I really liked their offseason of being able to bring back a lot of the talent that got them to the Western Conference Finals. I liked what they did around the edges. I thought they put a team that made sense around AD and LeBron. And this year in the West, it was really a story of the young teams coming through and being like, your time's up, old man, for most of like the veteran teams, because it did not play out the way that I thought. I mean, to be fair to Memphis, injuries ruined their season. Like, I had put them at 5 in the beginning because I was accounting for the Ja Morant suspension. When he did come back from suspension, they looked a lot better. He is the engine for that team. But like, everyone was hurt. Like, their injury report was looking like a CVS receipt for most of the season. So that is what it is. Like, I take the L on that one. But yeah, the West, it went a lot differently than I thought. Minnesota, OKC, I had them at 8 and 10, and of course, as we know, they were up there with Denver throughout the year.
Yeah, I had Phoenix at 1, Denver, LA Lakers, LA Clippers, Golden State, Memphis, Minnesota, OKC, SAC, New Orleans. So actually, I think I got, aside from Memphis, like, I got all the teams right. I didn't have Dallas in, but the order was all screwed up. Yeah, much like you, I put too much stock in the olds and not enough stock in the youth. I thought Oklahoma City was going to be really good, but really good as in making the jump from a mid-lottery team to a solid playoff team and not, number 1 in the West. So I should have followed my gut even stronger. But I did think that Minnesota was going to be better than last year, because I thought that having a full year of the double big lineup and taking the leap, Mike Conley being the adult in the room would help, and that's what proved to be correct. But yeah, and I don't even count Memphis because their season was just completely wrecked, like you said.
Yeah,
there's no way you can predict that.
Tim, what you have?
Ooh, another 2 on the board. That was kind of like I had Denver, Phoenix, Sacramento, Golden State, Dallas, Lakers, but then I had Utah, Clippers, Memphis, and New Orleans. So, kind of with the same mindset I had with Brooklyn, was that I figured, okay, last year they was going in towards the end of last year, and they was kind of actually throughout the year, Utah was giving cats issues. Like they had early on, I think they had got as high as the 2 or 3 seed, and they kind of middled at the 4 or 5 for a minute, and they kind of dropped towards the end of last year. And I figured, okay, that's not a bad squad. You add a little bit more talent or whatever, they had a little bit more experience together, because really it was a ragtag group thrown together since they was training like crazy. I was like, all right, cool. Next year they should be better. Wrong. Wrong.
Well, the problem is they're not trying to be better. They started this season off the same way, which is they were much better than they had any right to be, and then they started trading off people and started prioritizing playing their young players. They're not trying to win. So,
but yeah, it seems like Detroit. Y'all ain't getting no lower than them, my boy. But Memphis, like Camille said, they had the injury bug, so really can't fault them too much. I'm sure they would have been here had they actually had somewhat of a healthy squad. I figured that they would be low since they was going to miss Ja for a quarter of the season anyways, but him coming back and then being hurt and then losing pretty much all of their starters at one point, it just doesn't, it didn't gel well. Sacramento and Golden State. Yeah, it was tough for them, and so you can't really fault them too much for that. Sacramento and Golden State with the massive fall off. Golden State now technically isn't more after last night's game. Though they made the play-in, they made the top 10. It's just one of those
I mean, and to be fair though, it was in part because of how stacked the West was. Their record wasn't bad, where it's they snuck into this. It was just
they had a better record this year than last year.
Some of the teams ahead of you.
Yeah, they were 60 last year, and they had a better record this year, and we're 10 seed. So,
right,
still West better.
Okay, all right. And then, just for prosperity's sake, this is how the West actually shook out. As you guys know, it was OKC, Denver, Minnesota, the Clippers, Dallas, Phoenix, New Orleans, the Lakers, the Kings, and then the Warriors. Yeah, New Orleans did a lot better than I thought they would. So shout out to the Pelicans as well. Although, really quick, that playing game, seeing Zion get hurt after dropping 40, having that doubled up, that's so weak. And now he's out for Friday. So
I have no faith in them winning without him on Friday.
Other play-in injury news, Jimmy Butler is down.
Oh, he just got hurt?
Yeah. He got up and shot the free throws afterwards, but he had a leg thing. He doesn't look great, but he got up and shot the free throws. We'll see how that plays out for Miami. Okay. With regular season in the books, who should walk away with the big season awards? And is this in alignment with your preseason prediction? So let's start with the easy one. Rookie of the year. We all said Wembanyama before the season. It's Wembanyama.
By landslide.
We did all say Wembanyama before the season, but it was a little shaky there at the start of the year. Some of y'all weren't holding line.
It was a little. It did get off to a shaky start, which is also part when we get to defensive player of the year, which is part of why I was I can't do it for Wemby. But beginning of the year, it was really an argument between him and Chet. It was there, and then Wemby just took off.
Yeah.
All right. So Pop finally let him play.
Remember, he was power forward to start the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think it was part of just trying to protect him and
Yeah, it definitely was because of his frame. He's slight. He wasn't even playing back to backs at certain points in this season. So
he was playing under 25 minutes a lot of the games. Like he really wasn't letting at the end of the season. He was like, "All right, fuck it, bro. Go ahead, do you. I'm gonna do me. What you talking about?"
But just for posterity's sake, my top 3 are Vic, Chet, and then Brandon Miller, who I owe an apology because coming into the draft, I was not high on that kid, but he's been balling out the second half of the year specifically.
Yeah. Once LaMelo went down, he really got the ball in his hands a lot more, and he got to show what he can do. Like he's gonna be a nice little piece. You can see the Paul George influence on his game as well, which that's interesting to see who guys are influenced by at this point because we're getting older. So we've seen some of the guys who they're influenced by, like from the beginning, where you're like, dang, like that's like Paul George, yo, GOAT, like that's who it is. But
like him, oh, okay,
I get it. Like I get why someone would be drawn.
Talking indie, sure.
No, it's a 6'8" smooth forward, 6'8" smooth forward, two-way. He's in that LeBron elk a little bit, where it's like it's a 6'8" dude who can do a little bit of everything. Like that's Paul George.
And I feel like he's much more fluid than LeBron. So like he had like going back to that pretty versus effective game. Not saying that Paul George isn't effective, but it's just like, pretty. Oh man, like I'm in my bag. I can do like spin, turn around, jump shot. You know, I can dunk on people. I got the crazy layup package. I got the handles. I got da. Like whereas like LeBron just kind of like bludgeons you to death. So. Like I get it, like where like you might gravitate more towards the stylistics of Paul George versus somebody else.
We'll talk about Paul a little more later.
All right, clutch player of the year coming into the season. The two of y'all and Ken all said Dame. I went with Steph, and I'm gonna just keep my answer with Steph. Actually, just to it was close. He's definitely in the top 3 considerations. So I'll stay with Steph. He finished number 1 in total clutch points while he was shooting almost 50% from the field during the clutch, 46% from 3 during those situations. But also want to shout out DeMar DeRozan and SGA as well. I think those are also some viable candidates for the award this year. Eric, who would you have?
SGA, I guess. Like I never know what to do with this award, so let's just say Shea. Give him something.
Tim? I'm with you on Steph. Preseason I had Dame, like you said, but as far as like the amount of games played, like over 40 plus games, Steph had hella shots. He was like Steph was 6th in points. He was tied for first in field goals, like attempts and made over players that played over 40 games. Because like there was a couple cats players like 38, but he played 44. So it was like with the sample size that he gave, him still shooting damn near 50%. Like a lot of times he had the ball in his hands towards the end of the game. Like if you bring up, hey, who do you want to take that last shot? Portland Dame, sure. Milwaukee Dame, I don't know, bro. Like, so it is Steph. Like it was always between Steph and Dame, pretty much. And now it's like somebody stayed the same. One of these kids doing his own thing.
It's like I said, I honestly think DeMar DeRozan might win it this year. And it's one of those ones where you don't think about it because Chicago wasn't great this year, but they would have been even worse without DeRozan being able to be who he was in clutch time. So like definitely want to just throw it out there. Like DeMar might really win that award this year.
And like for me, like with the clutch award, it's like we're kind of rewarding teams for being in a bunch of close games, whereas like somebody like SGA just doesn't give as many opportunities because they were blowing cats out a bunch. So like the cumulative totals of Steph and DeMar are going to be way higher because they play way more clutch games.
Yeah.
Another name that might pop up would be Siakam. I was kind of doing some research on this. Pascal.
I thought you said T.I. at first. I was like,
no, Siakam. Siakam had a lot of. I think he had like between 33 and 38 games or something like that played in clutch time. But him and Steph was around the same as far as like efficiencies. He didn't shoot as many threes as Steph. Like his field goal percentage, kind of like the points in that time, stuff like that. Like Siakam was right there too, but I don't know how many games they didn't win that many games with him like that.
So that was in Toronto versus Indy.
Yeah, not
Right.
the indie season as much. Okay. Let's move to defensive player of the year, which I think will also be a quicker conversation. Before the season started, Tim had Giannis as well as myself. Me and Tim were thinking Giannis. You know, he was on a mission this offseason. Eric went with Drew Holiday and Ken went with AD. So, Tim, now the season is done. Who you got for defensive player of the year?
I got Mr. Rudy Gobert. Minnesota's defense was one of the main reasons why they stepped up a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
The catalyst to that main defense was Gobert. Like, honestly, even when Cat went down, like, it seemed like the team kind of got better after he left. Kind of gave Gobert a little bit more breathing room. Like, he stayed in that paint. He stayed as the defensive anchor. He was talking a lot on defense. It was like really, he was shutting a lot of shit down there. Now, granted, they were the fourth best defense as far as defensive efficiency in the league this year. The three teams above them was like OKC, Boston, and Denver, I believe. But all three of those teams have a great team defense. They have multiple guys with high IQ, especially on the defensive end, that can be able to. But Minnesota has that defensive stopper. They have defensive players as a collective. They have things that they can do. Like they have Aaron Gordon, KCP over in Denver. You have the whole team for the Celtics.
Wait,
are you saying Minnesota doesn't have defensive stoppers?
No. I'm saying like as a team, as a collective, Boston, OKC, and what's the name as a team, as a collective, they have more than Minnesota. I'm saying Minnesota has Gobert. They have Anthony. No, they have Gobert. They have Davis. I mean not Davis. Edwards. And have
McDaniels.
I feel like Nas Reed. Oh, McDaniels. Josh McDaniels. Them three. Gobert. I feel like those other three teams have more to throw at you defensively than outside of just Gobert, McDaniels, or Edwards as your prime time defenders. So I gave it to Gobert because I feel like he doesn't have the same amount. Let me go ahead and finish before y'all keep looking at me weird and I have to go off the rails. So that's what I got Gobert.
I push back on the notion that Minnesota doesn't have as much defense around him because Edwards and McDaniels are two real big pieces of that. Then they got like Nas Reed off the bench, who's another big piece for them as well. You got Mike Conley. Like they got some bodies there and they play a really smart team-oriented defense. But even with them having the pieces around Gobert, I also have Gobert as being my player of the year. Like he anchored the best defense in the league this year, one of the best defenses in the league. Team shot just 21% of their shots against Minnesota in the restricted area when Gobert was on the court. When he's off the court, that jumps up to 26%, which would put them in like top 10 worst defenses with that metric there. Like even Victor Wembanyama, who I have as second in my defensive player of the year balloting, he even came out and was like, yeah, it's Gobert's this year. Like next year though, like this last one, but I'm going to give it to Gobert this year. And I definitely agree. Opponents only shoot 48% within 6 feet of the rim. Like all the metrics are there for Rudy Gobert and what he does for this team. And the reason why I can't give it to Victor Wembanyama, like I've seen people being like, it's a crime if it's not Vic. The Spurs defense was so bad this year. Like I understand that he himself towards the end of the season, when he was on the court, their defense operated so much better, but it's a full season award. So I just can't give it to Wemby this year, but he has shown the tools to be special going forward with this award. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, just on that last Victor point, it speaks to how bad the defensive talent around him was, because like when he was on the court, like they defended at like a top 10 rate. When he was off the court, it was like a historically bad rate. So he specifically was a really good defensive player, just in the system that was not at all conducive to, playing good defense. But I also had Gobert 1, Vic 2, AD 3.
Yeah,
you guys already hit on the reasons why it's Gobert's award to lose, but I did want to give a little bit to Anthony Davis, just because, like, especially watching him again against the Bucks, like he shut shit down, and
hacking.
It really, because I think this is the last time that we really get to talk about him, but like he was healthy this year. Like he still, spent a lot of time on the ground, writhing in pain and going out and then coming back. But he played in almost 70 some odd games. Him and LeBron, like when they were on the court together specifically, like the Lakers were a pretty good team. It's the other times it wasn't that great. But like he had a really good season overall and a phenomenal season defensively. So shout out to him.
Yeah, big facts. Quick shout out to Dustin who popped into the comments here. He said, always makes my day when I see Technical Foul is live. Appreciate you, Dustin. Thank you for stopping by. All right. Most improved player of the year. Ahead of the season, most of us had Anthony Edwards. Tim did. I did. Ken did. Eric had Jalen Williams, which is a good pool. I'm a ruin this because I see that the two of y'all say that it's still Anthony Edwards, and I vehemently disagree with that. His numbers did not jump enough for him to be most improved player of the year. Great preseason pick, but he didn't have the jump that Kobe White had. He didn't have the jump that Tyrese Maxey had. He didn't have a jump that even Alfred Sengun had if he would have qualified for it since he was 2 games short. But like, what is it about Anthony Edwards and his numbers this year that make y'all go like, yep, it's him over the guys that I mentioned?
I think it was more so the team.
Yeah. Team successful one. Team successful
one.
Him
driving team success. But we talking over each other.
Yeah, what he said. For me, it was really him stepping into that role as the star of the squad. Like, he was the engine that went for that offense a lot. Like, it was on full display when Cat went down. After that, my boy said, hey, give me the ball. We talked about it before, putting up 45, 50 shots and shit like that. It was some wild stuff. No. Him and his team,
I'm being real.
Again, him stepping into that role was like, okay, yeah, he was good last year. Cool.
He had the role last year.
It was still, hey, it's Anthony Edwards and
Tag me in, Tim.
Wait, go ahead.
So, like I said, I think it has a lot to do with team success. Like, his role on offense was the same, but he jumped it up a notch or two. Defensively, he also was like the number one person on the scouting report. So like, while his numbers didn't necessarily improve, like his impact on the game did. The attention that he took away from everybody else kind of frees everybody else up to do more, to allow the team to kind of flourish a little bit better. And like part of it is just kind of like a field thing where it's just like he went from a good young star on a middling team to borderline superstar on a top seed in the West, potential, contender. Whereas like so again, like maybe it is more narrative based than statistic, but also like for me with the most improved player award, like it's levels to it. So it's like Kobe White going from is this dude a bust to he's solid, he's a good role player. Like he may be like a third or fourth starter on a pretty good team one day. Is different from, like taking the leap from low level star to superstar, if that makes sense.
It's kind of like the Ja Morant leap.
That doesn't feel the same to me because like when he made those jumps, if you look at their numbers for Ja Morant, for example, the year before he was most improved to the year when he did it, like you saw a noticeable jump in his numbers as well as him being the focal point of the team. Like based on the argument that y'all had, like it would honestly make more sense for Tyrese Maxey to win that award than because he is somebody who had to step up in the absence of Joel Embiid, have more offensive attention on him while he's trying to run that offense by himself. He was a first-time All-Star this year while his points per game went up by 5 with, again, more defensive attention. Like he had to make that jump from, all right, you are a starter to, okay, you can lead this team for a while here, even though we know he is the Robin to Joel Embiid's Batman. But like, if that's the criteria you're looking around, like understand that Philly was 7th in the East, but like this isn't about necessarily team success all the way around. It's like about the jump that this player made and how they kept them in the, in the running. Like based on the argument that y'all made, like Tyrese Maxey seems like somebody who might fit that a little bit more cleanly than what Anthony Edwards did, in my opinion.
Which is why I brought up Cat. Like once Cat went down, Edwards' star really shone offensively and defensively, but more so on offense.
you about to step on your whole point. Because last year Cat was out. Cat only played 29 games, I think, last year. Whereas this year, so like Ant's opportunities would have went down because like last year he had more free. He had to play within the system that also featured another, all-star offensive player.
All right, we ain't going to agree on that one, and that's cool. It's nice to have some disagreement there, but I'm vehemently against it going to Anthony Edwards. Like, absolutely not. A sixth man of the year. Ahead of the season, Bobby Portis was mentioned by Eric. I mentioned Drew Holiday. At the time, I thought maybe Drew was going to come off the bench and they was going to start Al Horford. That didn't pan out, so completely throw that take out the window. It was trash. Ken had Emmanuel Quigley. Tim, I believe, disappeared during that point, so we didn't actually hear his preseason prediction. But now, season's done. Who do y'all have for sixth man of the year? Tim, why don't you start since we didn't get your preseason pick?
Bobby. The other mayor that we
Sly said that Maxi's not even Robin anymore. He's like Nightwing this year, which that's actually kind of funny. All right. Sixth man of the year. You got Bobby.
Love Nightwing.
I don't know comics, so I don't know. I don't get that reference.
No, Nightwing was that motherfucker. Nightwing was cold.
So Nightwing is above Robin?
No,
yes.
He's Robin, but then he got older, and then he was like, you know what, fuck
More
that.
vicious.
I'm the new Batman now, type shit. Like, hey, no, this is my city. I'm gonna go ahead and take over this shit.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. It's like in the hierarchy, like he's saying that he's Nightwing, so that means he's actually better than Robin. He's like a more evolved version.
Like I can be Batman for a while here,
Right.
pretty much.
Okay, now
I can carry this mantle. But yeah, I got Bobby Portis. It was kind of rough to start off a little bit, a little shaky. But once he hit his groove, like he never let up. And Bobby had hella games for us. Was the reason why we won several games towards the end of the season when our offense was stagnant as crap. He come in, he'll drop some 30, he'll drop a 28, he'll drop a 25 off the bench. He'll fill in when we needed it the most on several different occasions. He was the energy outside of Pat Bev. He was the energy and that engine for that bench. Especially when Bev became the starter towards the end, like a couple starts at the end of the game, sure, at the end of the season, sure. But Bobby still was the one coming, first man off the bench, coming in. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and hit these first 5. And just give me the ball. Maybe I'll hit the first 6. Okay, 7. Okay, 8. Like, he had hella games. We were like, oh, Bobby, hot as shit, talking shit to everybody, still coming up the court. Only thing is, I needed that energy on that defensive end. But other than that, Bobby got it. He got that shit.
Yeah, Bobby's a good pick. And then seeing some of the numbers, he'd have my vote. Like, I don't think it's going to go his way. It feels like Malik Monk has that sold up. And honestly, sixth man of the year, historically, like I always think of it as a guard award. Like it tends to go to the high scoring guard that comes off the bench. Malik Monk fits that mold a lot better. Like Nas Reed's name that you've heard thrown out there as well. But Bobby did his own little, what I'm going to call sixth man of the year pitch. Like he just had a day, which is I'm gonna just throw some information out at y'all, and y'all do with it as you choose, as you finish up your voting. But Bobby finished the season off the bench. These are just people coming off the bench. First in double doubles, he had 16 double doubles off the bench, best in the NBA. Most rebounds off the bench, 573. Second total points off the bench. Second rebounds per game off the bench. He was third in field goal percentage, shooting 50.1%. Off the bench, fourth in points per game, off the bench, 13.5. And Bobby played in all 82 games, which has, ironically enough, helped bump down some of his averages because he played in every single game, while some of these guys, 70, whatever games it was. But Bobby gets my vote. Like, I just think that it's kind of criminal how his name has not been discussed more. Even if he doesn't get it, like at least I want to hear him in the discussion a lot more. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I really don't get, like, if you put their numbers up against each other, like how Nas Reed is a top candidate for this award, but then Bobby doesn't get any mentions. It really, like, it boggles my mind. I really don't understand. Like and I think I said this when they played each other, it's like they're damn near the Spider-Man meme because like their play styles are pretty similar. The roles that they play are really similar. They have the same similar strengths, similar weaknesses. I just feel like Bobby's better personally. But I guess if you want to argue that what's name is on a better team, but it's not like Anyway, I'm getting far afield.
You know they don't fuck with us around here.
Yeah, but Bobby is my pick. If I had a vote, that's who it would go to. Like, I think that he's had better seasons than, like I said, Nas Reed, Malik Monk. It looks nice, but like all he gives you is points. Which I mean, I don't want to say like, you know, that's useless, but it's like Bobby does give you the rebounding. Bobby does give you a, you know, relatively big presence in the paint. You know, and he damn near scores at the same rate. Like, it's not like, I think Monkey's at like 15 points a game. Bobby's like the high 13. So
Yep.
It's negligible. And Malik Monk just has free reign, like basically when he's in the game. Like, he gets to shoot as much as he wants. He's in control of the ball. Like, Bobby has to kind of be. He's a big, so he has to rely on other people. He's probably always sharing the court with at least one of the Bucks stars. Whether that's Giannis or Dame or Chris to an extent. So, yeah, Bobby gets my thing. But Bobby at home, like if Bobby only played at 5-star, Bobby would have this award sewn up.
Sewn up, my boy.
That is a different animal, like with that crowd behind him. So
we got Sly and Dustin in the comments as well, who believe that it is Bobby Portis. With that, all right, Coach of the Year should probably be quick. Before the season, I don't know what I was. As I mentioned, I was very high. I was very high on the Lakers coming into the year. I thought it was going to be Darvin Ham. Absolutely not. Ken thought it was going to be Mike Brown. Tim thought it was going to be Mike Malone. That's a good pick. Eric thought it was going to be Adrian Griffin.
I wanted to go back and listen. I couldn't find it in our preview show. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, was I being facetious or, like, willing? Like, there's no way that was, like, my actual pick. Or, like, that was like me, like, if the Bucks don't do what they do need to do, like, it's gonna have to be him type shit.
It was.
Like,
that was
as we I was gonna say, like, as we've documented on this show on numerous occasions, I was not a fan of Adrian Griffin. So when I saw that in here, I'm like, what the hell? How did that happen? So yeah, no, my pick is Mark Daigneault from OKC. Him, Tibbs, and Jamal Mosley are my top 3 picks.
Yeah, I got the same. I think it's Daigneault as well. It's a lot. Shout out to Chris Finch, Minnesota as well. Jamal Mosley is a good one with Orlando. Like, I think it's Mark, but like there's been some good. I mean, Joe Mazzulla, what Boston did this year was fantastic. Like, some consideration there as well. But yeah, I'm not even going to belabor the point. I agree with you. I think it's Mark Daigneault from OKC.
Which when we play, like nobody can tell me.
Yeah.
I thought about that as soon as I was typing his name in. I was like, I had to look up how you spell his last name. So I was like, this is. I want to make sure I get it right. But
first we ain't know him, now we don't. You know what I'm saying?
Right. All right. MVP. Before the season, Tim had Giannis. Eric had Giannis. I had AD. Ken had Luka. Again, I thought the Lakers were going to do some things this year. But I think it's Jokic still. Like, the man, like the numbers, all the advanced metrics, the numbers, like it all just stands out when it matches the eye test. Like when you're watching Denver, you're always just like, that's the best dude on the court. Like,
it's how the hell he get these numbers that damn fast when he's on the court.
Everything is just Jokic. That's
like magic.
Play. Like, it's just kind of like he's just going like a robot. Where it's like, I'm just gonna make the right decision every time. You can't speed me up. You can't frazzle me. Here it goes.
You know, like you just saying that just kind of clicked something in my mind, right? I feel like Jokic and Giannis are this generation's Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. In that you have one that is like just like a basketball robot, makes everything look super easy, he has the flashy passes, but it's not like, you know, he's not out here dunking on people. He's not like doing step backs into 3-pointers. Like, it's just like, I'm gonna get to the spot, I'm gonna raise up, I'm gonna shoot, I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna get this rebound, I'm gonna bring it up and pass to this dude, open 3-pointer. Like, it's just like super, just like, it feels like analytical basketball. Whereas then on the other side, you have like the super hype, high energy, run down, KG talk shit. Giannis just kind of like glaring at people, like it's all force and like aggression. Anyway, that's beside the point. Jokic is my pick. I think he's not far and away, but I think he's cemented himself as the best player in the league. I think that There's a reason that people were saying like maybe the Lakers or Pelicans should throw their playing game so that they can duck Denver at 2, because like that is like the big bad in the league right now, because like I don't think anybody really wants to play them in a playoff setting. And Jokic is obviously the biggest part of that. He does make the game look easy, like, and I feel like if he actually hunted numbers, like he would shatter all this shit. It's just like it's in the flow of the game. Like it's never like he's hunting assists or he's like, you know, stealing rebounds from his teammates or he's gunning for shots. Like it's just all within like, I'm just hooping. Like I'm just playing.
Just right decision.
And you can't do shit with him. Yeah.
Nope. He was first in total plus minus this year, second in total assists, third in total rebounds, fifth in total points. He also was top 10 in a few hustle stats. Look at true shooting percentage in clutch situations. He was shooting 69.8% in the clutch. Like Jokic was just amazing. And it's a year where SGA was in the lead early on. Like he definitely made a run. I feel like SGA's play down the stretch pittered a little bit and Jokic just remained strong. But I know that's your MVP pick this season, Tim. So what's gives SGA the edge in your opinion?
Pretty much the reason why we said Mark Daigneault. Like nobody really expected OKC to be what they was, not even to get the number 1 damn seed. The literal catalyst behind a lot of that was SGA for the whole season damn near. Like, yes, the team defense was great. Yes, they have a bunch of young cats, but the person that needed to take a step, who we saw star potential in last year, took that extra step to become, hey, this is my team, this is my job, we gonna gun for this. He was on IG showing his ass, talking shit on IG with his posts and his quotables. Like what is, I forgot the one that he was like, he was gunning for number 1, but he ain't gonna ever be number 2 or some shit like that. I forgot what it was, but you can find it. Go to his IG, you'll see it. I'm sure he still got it up. But no, he kind of took that shine and that mantle as being that star and leading that team to the number 1 seed, as well as he's number 3 in the league in scoring. He at one point he was Luka was number 1 most of the year.
That man, right? Luka would be my number 2.
Luka is a monster. Like Luka probably would be my number 2 pick if they weren't so low. So it would be he's number 3. Jokic is number 2. That's my boy still. But no, SGA. I was a fan of SGA last year. I was a fan this year, and the way that he played 98% of the year. Like towards the end, yeah, stretch the last couple games, yeah, and I think that's because he started to try to rest up for the playoffs, honestly, because a couple games he had like 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 17 minutes, shit like that. So he wasn't even playing full games over the last 10 games. He had a 40-point game, and then after that, he really was playing like 18 to 25 minutes. So it's like I feel like he was kind of took his foot off the gas just to kind of, all right, let me not do too much still. Like if I really want to try to get this award or whatever the case may be, fuck it, I'm gonna just try to gear up for the playoffs now. But I feel like SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder is the main reason. Well, their record, their seeding, that team as a collective really was behind him.
Okay. All right. Let's get into.
But one thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like I've seen like the groundswell of support for SGA, and like not you, but like I feel like a lot of it is like the talking heads, like just wanting the black dude to win the award, like to be quite honest. Or like people not really because like it like the Stephen A. Smiths, the Kendrick Perkins of the world, like it feels like they like whenever it's like comes to the MVP, like they don't want to give you Luka or Jokic really their flowers. Like they always want to put like whoever black dude's at the top, like it's him. And like I don't necessarily like for MVP, I don't like the team success argument where it's like he's the number 1 seed, so he the MVP. Like that's really reductive because the biggest difference from Oklahoma City from last year to this year is Chet, really. Like, it's having that big that can kind of, like, really be the linchpin of your defense. So, like, yes, Shea has been balling crazy. Like, Shea is pretty much who he was last year. Like, I don't see, like, a material difference from who he was. He just played more games, and Oklahoma City as a team was much better. But as far as, like, the team success for them, it's like Jalen Williams took the lead. They had Chet. They have more depth. Their piece, like Lou Dort is locking people up. Like their collective team effort. Huh?
You're saying Luke can shoot threes now too.
Yeah, so like the whole team is kind of weird. They have a team full of young dudes. Like it's kind of like what you said about Detroit, except they're actually good players. Where it's like they've had a whole bunch of high draft picks that have gelled together and grown together into a team that's really like a legitimate contender now. And like I don't want to put all that on just like Shea put this team on his back. It's like no, he got a whole lot of help, and like that's why they're so great. In addition to Shea is a great player individually.
Yeah, but the MVP thing for me still takes into consideration. Like you remove Shea, are they number one, or are they just a really good team?
You remove Jokic and you remove Shea. Which team is better?
Right. Like the Denver is going to drop like a stone without Jokic.
I don't know, like a stone, but I don't think it's like a stone. Like OKC,
like he has one of the high, like the plus minus when he's on and off the court. Like the split between the two is ridiculous with Jokic. Like when he sits, it's bad for Denver. Like if he wasn't playing, he's their hub. Like he is what you run their offense through. But let's get into some series previews here. We're going to start, of course, with Bucks Pacers, because that's the series we're going to talk the most about on this show. We have the most material interest in this series, being a Milwaukee-based podcast here. And our resident Laker fan isn't here. So it's all Bucks fans on the pod today. That being said.
Lakers, not Ken.
That being said, Bucks, Pacers. Give me like a minute, maybe 2 minute spiel on who you got in the series and why. We can talk a little bit deeper about that, but just give me your quick summary notes on the series. Eric, you start us off.
Oh, Jesus. For the culture, I have Bucks in 6. Like I said earlier, like I don't think I've been this low on the Bucks going into playoffs. Maybe since the Jason Kidd era. I shouldn't even say maybe. Definitely since the Jason Kidd era. But like I think even that year they had Jim Boylan or not Jim Joe Prunty. Like I was kind of like, oh, they can pull off the upset against Boston round 1. Like I actually had more confidence in that team than I do right now, where we don't know the health status of Giannis. We honestly don't know the health status of Dame. Like this team hasn't looked good over the last month or so. The Pacers ran them out of the gym in most of their games this season. So like again, it's similar to picking the Bucks as the number 1 seed in the East before the season. Like it feels more like a homer pick than me actually having the faith or like the reasoning behind it to really support my argument. But I do think that a part of their issue this year has been motivation at times and collectiveness, and that they didn't get up for, like the shitty teams on their schedule, which was part of the reason why I think that they got beat by Indy earlier in the season, because they didn't really see them as a threat, like when they actually wanted to play them really tough, like they did. But like when they went into the game, just kind of like, fuck it, we just throw the ball around, we doing whatever, we getting cardio today. Like they didn't have respect for their opponents way too often this season. And hopefully being in a playoff environment, they have a bunch of vets. Like this is when they get their money. This is when, like you play your hardest. So like that's the only thing I'm really banking on. Because otherwise they haven't given me anything to really be that excited about in a pretty long time.
Tim.
I got Bucks in 6. 1 for the culture. 2, Indy likes to run a fast-paced game, right? So the Bucks, that's their kryptonite. That's their Achilles heel. Seriously, like if you got a team full of young cats that want to get out and run, they gonna run us right out the damn gym. I think we were 1-5 against them this season.
1-4.
1-4 in 5 games. So, to Eric's point, we have a tendency to play down to our opponents and play up to our opponents, which I feel like is just a Wisconsin team thing. Brewers and Packers do the same shit. He pissing me off. But I feel like Bucks in 6 as well, like just from a standpoint of Tyrese is still trying to make his way back. The playoffs tend to be a lot slower paced. Like you also we've had more than enough tape on them this time around for us to actually go into this series to take them seriously. And I feel like with that being said, Tarek's point, we have a lot of vets on the team to where now it's at the point where like, hey, we ain't got no other teams to worry about. We ain't finna focus on other teams. All we have is who we got right here. We have 4 or 5. We have 7 games total to try to get this shit done. I think they're going to try to make a statement based off of how they will work during the regular season. I feel like they're going to try to make a statement with how they were viewed throughout the regular season, and that we're going to come in with a different type of mindset for Philly and probably try to give them our best shot, seeing as it wouldn't be a punching down situation coming into this series. So the way that their mindsets go, they should be punching up because they feel like they would actually be a threat.
So real quick, to follow on something Eric said, he said he's picking Bucks and 6 more so out of the fandom of it all, like not feeling great about the pick. Are you saying Bucks and 6 solid? Like you really be like, you're like, hey, I know this team gonna show up, I believe, or are you also kind of like, I don't feel great, but that's my squad, so it's Bucks and 6?
I mean, it's 80-20 that.
Okay. What you like leaning more?
I'm leaning more towards I feel like they really gonna show up. But I still have to keep that reasonable doubt because of how they've been throughout the season.
I think that's fair. Any fan of the Bucks who comes and says like they're not winning the series, I would say I understand why you feel that way. Like this team has been inconsistent throughout the year. Their record under Doc wasn't anything to get you excited, especially with them going on that losing streak against the Wizards and then found up with the Grizzlies and then the Raptors towards the end of the year. And then they lost to the Knicks after that as well. 3 losses at home, which the Bucks don't lose a lot at home. And they lost 3 in a row at home towards the end of the year. But real quick, I got Bucks in 7, and this is not a homer pick. I've spent a lot of time now thinking about this matchup and how it might go. And I'm going Bucks in 7. One part, something that Doc said after they lost to Orlando to end the regular season, and he was asked like, yo, y'all lost 8 of y'all last 11 games. How are you going to carry that into the playoffs? Like, what do you do with that? I'm going to just read this Doc quote exactly because it was very illuminating to me, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this. He said, quote, I'm not worried about the 8 of 11. We can't get them back. No one wants to lose that. That's on me and the team, but what can I do? We're here for right now. Starting right now is what, unfortunately, I think all of our players were looking for, honestly. And that's what we're going to get, end quote. And when Doc just pretty much came out and said, like, honestly, this team itself feels like they've just been waiting to get to the playoffs, and now we're here. Like, now it's really time to dig into that. And which I've been hearing from the team about just their focus, the perspective. It's in alignment with what my eyes saw throughout the season, which was certain nights they just weren't getting up for games. They were late on rotations. They weren't getting back in transition because they just weren't focused on doing it. Like you could see it when they wanted to do it, that they could do it. And now the question comes like, will you be able to do it consistently over a series? And I think that this team is going to come in with the right focus to be able to do that. But the thing with it is Giannis is hurt. And I think it's safe to go into the series assuming that he's not going to play game 1. If he does play, then it's like, hey, bonus, we got Giannis. But I think heading into it, it's just safe to say we're not going to have him for game 1. We do not know when he's going to return. And that injury aspect of it is why I'm pushing it to Bucks in 7, because I do still think they have enough talent, even if Giannis misses the first 2-3 games, to be able to hold the tide down until he gets back, as long as the Bucks can play good transition defense. That's the key point in this series for me. Like the transition defense has to be right for the Bucks because the Pacers love to push the pace. That is what they do. So if you cannot stop them in transition, you are going to get eaten alive. That's the biggest thing for this team. And when it comes to transition defense, that also means that their offense has to be on point. The spacing has to be good. The shot selection has to be good because a lot of times Pacers run after misses, they run after makes, they run whenever they can run. So like you can't put yourself in situations when you're turning the ball over or you're shooting these quick shots or bad shots, allowing them to use your poor offense to fuel their offense. Like the Bucks can't do that. So I have some faith in the Bucks having a week to game plan, using this week now without Giannis practicing, without Dame practicing. And for the Dame thing, I'm not worried about Dame. I feel like Dame will play come game 1 on Sunday. He was asked about that himself after Orlando. And he was like, I'll be ready to go when the playoffs start. I'm not going to be 100%, but I'll be ready to go. So like Dame, I think is going to play, and it's going to be a big Chris series. It's going to be a big Bobby series. It's going to be a big Pat Bev series. But I think the Bucks have the pieces if they actually play the way that they need to play to do it, and I think they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, to that point, or to Dustin's point, I should say, he says I can see them exiting first round, and I can see them winning it all. It's like
Same.
It's weird, but I actually I would feel more confident if they were playing Boston round one, or a Philly or a Miami, where it's like I actually want them tested up front. Like I don't want it to be like they got caught off guard, they didn't take this team serious. Like I want them to be completely locked in 100% from jump. And the only time that they've really demonstrated that this year is when they play like the other teams that they think are on their level. So it's like I could see this falling into like a trap series for them where they're looking ahead to, the winner of New York and whoever wins this playing game that's going on right now. And like, trying to little bro Indy, and then they just run their ass off the court. But I also see like kind of like the two sides of like Giannis not playing early in the series, maybe not at all. It's like this is an opportunity for Dame to be Dame and let Dame kind of run the show and get into a rhythm. And like Giannis is gonna be Giannis regardless of like what's going on. It's like if you can get Dame into a rhythm, if he's healthy, if he's close to 100%, like you can kind of like figure out like a Dame centric way to play. And that can only get the ball rolling forward when Giannis is hopefully healthy and ready to re-enter the lineup.
Yeah, and I don't think that they are going to come out and try to look at the Pacers like little bro them. Like they got beat 4 times by this team in the regular series. Like after that finished up, like Giannis had the quotes after the 4th game where he's like, "This isn't going to. Like, we have to be better. We got to do this. Like everybody's got to be better." And they weren't. And they lost again to him. Giannis is talking about something. You think about it all the time. When you lose to a team this many times, like you think about it. You think about it when you're working out. You think about when you're getting freaky. Like you think about it. Malik Beasley, we're going to see them in the playoffs. And it's not going to be like this is not a situation with the Pacers where I think the Bucks were taking them lightly. And Bobby Portis was talking in his presser, and he's just like, they're like, do you activate a switch, for the playoffs? And Bobby was like, the switch isn't like, oh, I go from averaging, 15 to averaging 25. Like the switch is you're locked in on your game plan. You're more locked in on your matchup. You're more locked in on the day-to-day. You're not thinking about June. You're literally just thinking about April 21st. And that's it. He's like, there's no forward thinking like in the regular season where you're like, oh, we're trying to play to June. He's like, when playoffs start, you are looking at it. You're not thinking like, I got to win 4 games. You're thinking, we got game 1. And we got to show up game 1. He's like, you think about it on such a smaller level where it becomes more of a day-to-day focus rather than like, oh, well, it's January. We in Utah. Like, I can't wait till it's, May. He's like, the focus is just different. And that's the playoff switch. Like, I have full confidence that this team is going to come out and they're going to play tighter than what we've been seeing to end the season. It's just like Dustin said, they could win the final. They can get to the finals. They could lose in the first round. I'd be like, I see how it happened. Tim, you have any other thoughts on the series?
No. And this is, like I said, I think they're going to come up, show up. I'll be at game 1. So we'll be trying to cheer them on in the building.
Oh, sure. You got tickets.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, bring some good luck.
I hope so. Okay. Well, all right, Tim, I know you got to jump.
For sure. Real quick, because I know y'all gonna get into the other one, so let me just give you what I feel on the other series real quick, and then I'm gonna bounce. For the Cavs Magic series, I got Cavs in 7. I think that they have the defense and the consistency on offense, especially with Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. But I think Orlando's gonna give them a fight, so that's why I'm giving them 7. Minnesota versus the Suns, I got Minnesota in 6, 5th best record at home, 3rd best point differential. I think their defense is gonna be too much for the Phoenix Suns. Clippers, Mavs. I got Mavs in 5. Playoff P and Jimmy Harden strikes again. You know how that go.
What about Lakers Nuggets?
Lakers Nuggets, I got Denver. Denver's been the same way the Lakers were with the Pelicans. Denver has been with the Lakers. So that's just gonna be, just go ahead and get rid of that ass. But who knows?
Okay. Well, appreciate you, boss. Have a good rest of your night.
For sure. Timkins 3, aka Mr. Give It To Me, signing out.
All right, Eric. Now let me ask you this, since Tim kind of went rapid fire through some of the other series. Let's just go Cavs Magic. I feel like this is a series most people aren't necessarily excited about, but it's two strong defensive teams playing against each other.
You know, I was gonna say, like, when I realized that the Bucks were playing the Pacers, like, oh, this is the most NBA series of all time. And then I saw those Cavs and Magic. I was like, no, this is the most NBA TV series of all time. And lo and behold, yeah, they have like 2 games, I think, on NBA TV, and the other ones are like noon tip-offs on the weekend. So, like, yeah, they're definitely trying to get this. They don't want anybody to see this series. But yeah, so I had Cavs in 5. Shout out to Orlando. They had a great season. I'm really bullish on their future, but this is their first time in the playoffs. They don't have a really good offense. I think that Cleveland, you know, they took their lumps last year, and I think that they're ready to at least like make that next step. And like matchup wise, I just think that the offense is just a little like
too bad.
The gap between the offense in Cleveland's favor is much larger than the gap in defense between the two, if that makes sense.
No, so that makes
Cleveland's offense a better shot of scoring on Orlando's defense. Orlando's offense will have scoring on Cleveland's defense.
No, that's super fair. This is a series where I was like, I'm just going to kind of go against the grain. I can see a way in which Orlando does do that upset. Like the way that Cleveland ended their series, as much as I talked about how I have faith in the Bucks being able to kind of figure it out. With Cleveland, I'm not as sure, especially because they had some of those late injuries as well down the stretch. And Orlando, I got big questions about their offense, just like you do, because that's where they struggle for sure. But the defense, I think that they might be able to find enough ways to generate points off of their defense, which can keep them into some games and steal a few as well. So I'm going to go Orlando in 7. The matchup with Suggs and Mitchell is going to be really, really fun to watch. I want to see how Mitchell responds to Jalen Suggs' defense. And I mean, we just saw the Magic twice in the season with the Bucks, and like they can be a really physical team. When Jonathan Isaac is really on point with his defense, like it changes some things with having his rim protection behind you. And then you have like the guard, you got some size in Orlando as well. So that's I'm not confident in the pick at all. But this is like my upset pick of the playoffs, I guess I would say, is the Magic.
I think in the past I've likened this Magic team to kind of like those young Jason Kidd era Bucks where like you can see they're kind of putting it together, and like they had some pieces, and like they had the length, they had the positional size, they had the physicality. But like the offense, like the half-court offense gets slowed down so much in the playoffs where it's like it's kind of hard to win when you only score like 75 points. So, like regardless of how good your defense is. So, I feel you. I can. It's really a toss-up, but I think the experience factor, and I just feel like Cleveland has a few more pieces, especially offensively.
No, I definitely.
Although they have plateaued a little bit, like their progression has kind of stagnated a bit. Like Garland, Mobley.
I definitely feel you on that one. Like I said, I don't feel great about it. It was something in me that was just like, I think Orlando can pull the upset. But let's head to the West. We got the Wolves and the Suns. I guess technically, if we pick the Suns, that's an upset as well in this series. So who you got? Wolves, Suns.
I had Suns in 6. I like the Suns. I just cannot quit them for whatever reason. Like they've given me all the reasons to this season, but like then they have one of those games where it's just like, how you gonna stop all these dudes? And then Grayson Allen turned into a human flamethrower this season. Which shout out to him for getting paid. But like you still have KD, you still have Book, you still have Beal. And like Minnesota's defense is crazy, but at the same time, like I don't know, like it's more of a gut feeling than like I broke down like the X's and O's of it. again, like the Bucks being trash is kind of like taking the wind out of my sails as far as like NBA right now. So it's kind of like I am at a little bit of a disadvantage. Whereas like usually I'd be pretty tapped in, but like I'm just like, let me follow wrestling for a little bit.
A question I had in this series, I just kept saying, who was Carl Anthony Towns gonna hold? Like that's where I started. Like what is going to be his defensive matchup? Because like the Timberwolves are equipped. I'm like, you got Edwards, you got McDaniels, you got Rudy Gobert in the paint for sure. But like, is Cat gonna be on KD? Like, is that going to be the matchup? Just trying to use size against size, but like, I don't see that ending particularly well for Karl Anthony Towns if that is the case. And he's also just coming back from injury as well. The Suns have had the Timberwolves numbers throughout the season. I think part of that is Anthony Edwards just hasn't translated against them in the regular season for some reason. I don't see that happening in the playoffs. I think Anthony Edwards is going to be able to get a little bit more than what we've seen, but Bill, Book, and KD having that shot making on the court in the playoffs when things do slow down, you might have to lean on that ISO ball a little bit more. Like it's just hard for me to bet against them. So I'm gonna go with Suns and 7. I got all these series going 7, just about, except for Lakers. Except for Lakers Nuggets, like that's the one where I'm like, nah, we ain't gonna get there.
And
but
I mean, if you have it in anything more than 5, then that's kind of like the equivalent of that series going 7. Because anyway, sorry, like you bringing that up is like who's Cat gonna guard? But like if you think about it, Gobert has been played off or should have been played off the court in playoff series in the past, like, and the way to do that is going small. And if there's one team that's equipped to go small, especially against a team, like against a Gobert, where it's like, I'm not worried about him like punishing us in the post. Like it is this Phoenix team. So it's like if they go with KD at center lineups, man, they might be fucked. Like with two of their bigs being unplayable. So like maybe if they can kind of goon it up a little bit and use their size as like, use their size and physicality to kind of rough them up to where like, okay, we can't just keep like letting KD get abused, guarding these bigs. Like that may be the way that they kind of counteract that. But at the same time, I think that if they're just like bleeding threes, which the Suns can definitely do, it may not matter about Rudy Gobert's rim protection as much.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be a fun series to watch. But Clippers Mavericks is another one that we know about. Third time these teams will have met in the playoffs in the Luka era. Like, the Mavs ain't won in the first 2 series. I feel like that changes this year, and especially like there's question marks around Kawhi Leonard's health. Like if Kawhi was fully healthy, could be a different story. But I don't know where he is in this series. And this Dallas team is just so much better constructed around the gifts of Luka, with them having the actual rim rollers now and just guys who fit well around him. Like I think it's Mavericks in 7. Mavericks in 7 well in this one. Let me say this: Mavericks in 7 if Kawhi is playing and healthy. If Kawhi is not, then it's Mavs in 6.
Yeah, Mavs in 6. Again, it does come down a lot to Kawhi's health. Like if I knew Kawhi was relatively healthy, like I would probably go Clippers. The Jimmy Harden playoff experience tax notwithstanding, I just think Kawhi is that dude. But given that he's had knee issues kind of flare up in his last couple of weeks, it's kind of like that's the last thing that you want to hear going into the playoffs with Kawhi Leonard on your team. So, and to your point about like the roster composition around Luka and Kyrie now, like the Knicks have been on a tear, like when they've had OG in the lineup. But I think that Dallas probably had the best deadline because like those 2 bigs specifically that they picked up like are like perfect complements to what they're trying to do. And gives them so much more depth up front, gives them more versatility. Like, PJ Washington is a big, but like he can play 5, he can guard 3s. Like he gives you so much more versatility. It's kind of like a chameleon. lineup construction wise. And then you have Kyrie, who, for all his faults, is still like a damn good basketball player and can single-handedly win you a playoff game.
Yep.
And then you have Luka. So it's like, this is the, I talked about the Jimmy Harden playoff tax, but like, the Jason Kidd playoff tax is like pretty much the only thing that's really keeping me from being so, completely locked in with Dallas. But like, even still, like, I think that they have enough to get out of this first round, especially if Kawhi is injured.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because if Clippers were fully healthy, then it's like, okay, they got PG and they got Kawhi to throw at, Luka and Kyrie and an occasion to switch it up. But yeah, Jimmy Harden, that's going to be an experience for sure. Okay, not Clippers, the other team in LA, Lakers, Nuggets. We found that matchup was locked in last night after the 7-8 playing game. Who you got?
I have Denver. I don't know if they swept them last year, so I feel like LeBron isn't going to get swept by the same team 2 years in a row. So I'll at least give him one. So I'll say Denver in 5.
Same thing I got. Like, listen, this is one of those series. Ken, our resident Lakers fan, if you're new here, he sent us a meme. Wrestling fans will get it, but it was like The Rock beating up Cody Rhodes, and that picture, the Lakers were The Rock and Cody Rhodes was the Pelicans, and then behind him was Undertaker, and Undertaker was the Nuggets, and The Rock is sitting there like, oh shoot, like this is behind me. Like, it's just not a great matchup for the Lakers. We talked about the brilliance of Jokic earlier in the show. Like, I think it just carries. Like, the defending champs, like, they got it. I'm sorry, I don't have much more analysis on that one. Like, that's Denver.
I wish the baseball guys were still on here, so like one of them could get my reference. But I have faith in you, Camille. You might get it. It just feels like the Lakers and Denver are kind of like Pedro Martinez when he was on Boston. He was like, the Yankees are my daddy. Like, that's the type of, yeah. I tried, but Pedro like basically like the Yankees kept beating up on Boston forever and ever. Like, they kept beating them in the playoffs, and they just kept beating them. Pedro Martinez was like a great pitcher for Boston. At one point, he's just like, the Yankees are my daddy, because like I can't do nothing with them. So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Dustin asked slight deviation. So Dustin asked, I tried to. I still have to find out what it was like when Undertaker's bell sounded at WrestleMania. I missed Eric's take on the last episode. Again, part of it is that I was expecting to hear the glass break. So like when I heard the gong, it was like a complete surprise. So it was like, oh my, like the way that they had built up to it was so great, because you're just like, oh my God, who's next? What's next? Like, and then like to actually be surprised by the person that was like the final reveal was, I don't know, it was really cool. I was kind of disappointed a little bit that I didn't get the full entrance, but also that would have taken like another 20 minutes for them to get down to the ring. So I'm glad that they did it that way, but I still haven't gotten to see like the full Undertaker entrance ever, which is kind of like a little bit disappointing. But like the gong gave me enough of a feeling to, to wet my whistle, if you will.
I feel it. You want to just jump into wrestling on that actual segue right there? Like, we wrapped up the series. The playing game is still going on right now. Miami's up 11 at the moment as we record this. I did make a quick joke today. I might lead you into this. I made a joke. Everybody was talking about, teams are ducking smoke from Philly if they're gonna be the 7th seed. And I was like, what if they're not the 7th seed? What if Philly ends up being the 8th seed after all? Or they have, I don't think they're gonna lose to the Hawks or the Bulls, but I was like, what happens if they actually be the 8th seed and then Miami is the 7th seed? Like, what? How do you feel?
Yeah, that was gonna be like what I was bringing up, is that it did feel like the last night, especially of the regular season, but like even the last couple nights where Cleveland kept losing, Milwaukee rested Dame, which maybe he was injured, I guess.
He was hurt,
but just felt like nobody was really gung ho about like seizing the 2nd seed in the East, because they were trying to avoid Philly, definitely, and maybe to an extent, like basically you're playing either Philly or Miami, and I'm pretty sure like a lot of the teams were looking at that like, if we drop to 3, we get Indy, and I like that a lot more. It's just like, man, have some. I mean, it's easy for me to say from the sideline, but grow is sad. Like, I don't want my team stuck in smoke.
I pushed back on the notion that that Milwaukee was one of those teams. Like, oh, I'm trying to make the standings. Like, they were just bad. Like, I feel like saying they were trying to duck smoke absolves them of how terrible they need to sit in how bad they were playing. Like, they that was not purposeful. Like, they were bad.
But I mean, like, it was more so like one resting Dame in the Oklahoma City game, second to last game of the season, and then. And I know early on in the Orlando game that the Milwaukee announcers were saying like some of the guys might be on like a minutes restriction. It's like they weren't going all out for the second seed, which if you want to say like we prioritize rest over seeding, sure. But like it's like you going into that game like, hey, y'all only playing like 20 minutes tonight. Like that tells me that you didn't actually want the second seed.
I don't think that's how it went, because even when Dame got pulled, Doc was asked like, was that a minutes restriction? And he was like, no, Dame just wasn't moving right. Like he didn't look good. So the medical team was saying something different, but my eyes were telling me like he needs to sit down, and he needed to sit. And Dame afterwards, like, what's he dealing with? It's like his Achilles is sore. He got the abductor muscles. Like he got some nicks and knacks that he's been trying to play through, which never mind. I was going to go right back to that series. I'm not going to do that. But no, I think the Bucks were trying to win, because at first when I saw the OKC availability, like Brooke was like might be out and Chris was might going to be out, and I was like Bobby's going to be out. Like, dang, y'all okay? Y'all really are resting. But then the game came and everybody played but Dame, who couldn't go. So I was like, at least they like y'all trying to get it, but y'all had already put yourself in a bad position when y'all went on that losing streak against the teams y'all should have won in the first place. But
yeah,
golly, what a season it's been for the Bucks. Okay, wrestling.
I mean, like, it wasn't just the Bucks. Like Cleveland, like
for sure. I'm just saying the Bucks in particular. I don't think that they were trying to duck nothing. I think that they were just sucking. Cleveland. I'll give you, because when I saw what they did in the fourth quarter of the game, when they saw the Bucks lost, and I was like, y'all got like 8 bigs on the court. You can't even have 8 people on the court. Y'all, what are y'all doing? But
yeah, there were shenanigans afoot before.
So, Eric, the question that you actually have for wrestling, I want to actually save that until it's everybody, because that's more of a brainstorm question. That's a tease, ladies and gentlemen. He has a very interesting question that's forward facing that I want to talk about. I'm still Ken's because he's not here, but we'll just do this one and then we can move to quick hits. This will be like our wrestling quick hit as we wrap up the show. But Rhea Ripley had to relinquish her title due to injury. I believe on Monday Night Raw next week they're going to crown the new champion. So all that being said, how are you feeling about the Rhea injury, and then who do you think is going to be the next women's world champion?
It sucks to have her title reign and outside of the ring, essentially. And it was kind of like a freak accident thing from what has been reported. Yeah. Like they did the kind of brawl spot and she got thrown / she threw herself into a wall and messed up her shoulder that way. Hopefully she's not gone that long, but her absence will be missed. But yeah. Well, they say it depends on like if she has to have surgery or not. If they can just rehab it, like it may be like 4 or 5 months, whereas surgery is probably looking at end of the year at least. So fingers crossed. It's something that's not that bad, but we'll see. Like I said, like she's had a great reign. I shouldn't say she had a great reign. She's had a long reign, and she's been a great champion. I just don't feel like they've really built up enough people to really throw at her to have like a great reign, where she's like, like having great feuds and having great matches every month at PLEs and whatnot. Like it was very obvious late in the year where it's like they are doing whatever they can to keep Becky away from her until we get to WrestleMania season, because like it was, it would be like Nia Jax,
like, no,
and it was right,
yeah,
and it was just like or like some months they wouldn't even have her in a feud; she would just be doing Judgment Day stuff. So it's unfortunate that like now I think like they were kind of had like obviously they had this live feud kind of ready and waiting in the wings, and like hopefully like some of the draft will kind of shake things up, so hopefully she can get more main event people to really work with. But all for not at this point. As far as next champions,
Well, I said the Jade Empire is about to kick in. I don't think it's her time yet. I think she's still a little green.
Yeah. I think it would be a disservice to her to put her in that spot. Like, I think that they have kind of a plan for what they want to do with her, which is put her in a tag team with Bianca for a little bit and you know, like slowly get her acclimated to working WWE style, get her up to speed. Because, like, again, like it will basically put her back in the same spot that she was in AEW, where all she can really do at this point is squash matches, and like that stuff gets old really quickly, especially in WWE. So, yeah, no, I would rather not. Like, I'm a big Jade fan. I think that she'll be good eventually, but like I think that she's still limited in what she can do, and putting her in championship one-on-one matches regularly is not doing anything to kind of help her in that regard. Well, I guess before I go to next champions, like what are your thoughts on Maria's injury first and foremost?
I mean, same. When I saw the actual spot where Liv was jumping her backstage, the part that got her injured, which was the thrown into the wall part, wasn't what stood out to me. It was the chair flying. I'm like, golly, like she really hit her with this chair. Like that was an uncontrolled thrown chair shot, which is where I thought she probably got injured, but it was her hitting that shoulder against the wall. So it was unfortunate, especially when Damian Priest just got the title and Judgment Day was going to be able to run with this storyline with them having two of the top belts. Like I was really curious to see how that goes. So disappointing to see that, you know, we won't see that at this point. And who knows how long Damian Priest's title reign will be, if he'll even be champion by the time she gets back. But with wrestling being a full year entertainment program, like it's all year round, there's no off season. Like when people get injured, you got to roll with it. I mean, that's how we got the WrestleMania that we got, which turned out to be fantastic because of injury. Like CM Punk couldn't go, so it changed the schedule of what they thought they're gonna be able to do with Seth Rollins, and it worked out to be the ending of a really dope storyline that we've been seeing in WWE with Roman Reigns as champion. So I don't know how they pivot. I know we'll have a new champion, I believe, on Monday. I could see it being Nia Jax, just kind of have like a bully in place right now. I could see it being Liv Morgan, like I injured her, now I got her belt. It's going to be really interesting to see how they go with it. But it sucks that Rhea had to lose it this way.
Yeah. I was trying to go through like who would be credible. Like maybe they go with a complete like, you know, shock
like
factor thing, or right, like somebody you wouldn't necessarily expect. But I think the three prime candidates are the two that you mentioned, Nia Jax and Liv Morgan, and then it seems like they're pulling Becky back in. I heard that she was supposed to be getting time off, and now she's doing like their European tour. So maybe, you know, it's like, so about that time off, we're gonna need you to put that off for a little bit.
Like your husband,
I mean, that is
we need you to report back.
Yeah, because like, you know, like usually the standby would be Charlotte, but she's injured. And like I said, like even having people to feed to Rhea for her title reign, like they didn't have enough people really to even do that. So like the Raw women's side is really thin at the top. There are only so many options really there.
I hope it's just not like off the wall where you're just like, it's Chelsea Green. Like, how did we get here? Just nothing like that. No, I'll be all right. Okay.
Plus we have the draft at this month, so like whoever it is probably gonna be a transition.
I find it ironic WWE is doing their draft the same week as the NFL draft. I don't, that's not lost upon me that it's
I think
day 2 of the NFL draft is the first night of the WWE draft. I see it. I get what you're doing here. Some more quick hits. O.J. Simpson passed away April 10th, a week from today, after he was diagnosed last year with prostate cancer. He passed away at the age of 76. And the day that the news broke about his passing was a day on Twitter where I said, I think Bomani Jones tweeted, like, we're going to find out what Twitter would have looked like in 1995. And we absolutely did. Like, it was a wild day. And it just kind of made me think, like, legacies are complicated. And I've thought about this before with like a Chris Brown, like who did something when he was 19. It's something that's still brought up at his big age now, or everything's happening with Diddy now. And it's like, okay, like we understand what he did for music, for certain artists, but like you were also very trash over here in what you were doing. You got OJ, who was at the center of one of the most, I don't know what you even call that trial of the century. Like it just captivated the entire nation, and the Bronco chase and all of that stuff. And also like his football career, like 2,000 yards, like he did something, he was good on that field, but he had some issues off the field. And it's kind of like, how do you rectify a complex legacy like that? And all I could say when I saw that OJ died was, wow. I just literally like, wow, what a complex legacy that man leaves behind.
Yeah. It does seem like, obviously the trial and everything subsequent to that, it overshadowed everything that he did prior to 1994, especially in the conversation that sprung up out of it. But it does make me want to go back and watch the 30 for 30 that they did on OJ, just to kind of refamiliarize myself.
It made me go back. First I watched, was it American Crime Story, when the dramatization when Cuba Gooding Jr. played OJ? I watched that first. Afterwards, I forgot how good that series. They had some great actors in that show. But real quick with one of my earliest significant news stories that I can recall of my life is the OJ trial. Like that's a moment where as a kid I was like, oh, I remember the glove. I remember the trial happened. It's one of my earliest newsworthy things that I can actually go back and recall of being alive and being somewhat aware of what was happening, even though I didn't get the full picture until I got way older about what that trial was all about.
Yeah, same. One of my first memories is the 94 finals being interrupted by the Bronco chase and not knowing who the hell LJ Simpson was. I think my dad called to NBC affiliate here, put the game back on essentially. But as an adult and watching that 30 for 30 the first time around, it was they didn't know if they were about to see the public suicide of a Heisman Trophy winner, NFL MVP, movie star. There's I get why that would be newsworthy and why that would kind of cast a shadow over everything else that's going on that day. But at the time it was just but I want to watch basketball.
Could you imagine you out at the bar or something and you watching the game and then it cuts and you're just what?
It's just Aaron Rodgers driving down the freeway or something. Aaron Rodgers killed Dr. Fauci.
Oh my God. Oh,
allegedly.
But hey, listen, the juice, man, the juice.
Is it weird?
I don't know how to transition out of that. That's.
I might have. Is it weird that the first thought I had was Ken?
No, I did too. I swear, I'm mad that he's not here. Although he might have got us canceled, what he would have said about Orenthal, if he was on here. But I definitely thought of Ken, and all the times he kept saying I kind of want to meet OJ. I would love to meet OJ, and I'm he is too charismatic. Something about he scares me. He something about OJ. Especially that one interview where that lady was I think it's his idea of a joke, and he's at her door doing the fake knife thing. You know what I'm talking about? It was I'm gonna send it to you. It was an interview that he did with this woman, and then it's over, and she goes, "I have to show some additional footage. I think this was OJ's idea of a joke," and it cuts to him at her door, it's a knock. She opens the door, and it's OJ going at the door. I kid you not. I'm gonna send it to you. I'll send it to you. Okay. Two more things.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say again, giving an idea of his idea of a joke is when he was on the Cameron and May show and he's asking
oh my goodness,
do you open yourself up to women? He's open myself up. That sounds like confessing. Ain't no confessing. You don't confess. It's nigga, you cannot. How?
Right.
Why? I guess if you dying of prostate cancer, it's well, fuck it, why not? But Jesus.
I will say this. I'll end it on a more humbling note. It's not even just about OJ, but I did see he passed away prostate cancer. I saw somebody mention Like 2 weeks before he passed away, I was just talking to him and he was fine. Prostate cancer is what my Uncle Tony passed away from last year. And anybody who's dealt with somebody with cancer knows like it just like it very quickly is like a decline, and it just kind of happens out of nowhere where you're like, I was just talking to you last week and you were responding. And this week you can't even get out of bed and do anything. So like it's always hard losing somebody to cancer. And even for me, like even just seeing somebody like, that's exactly what got my unk. It's always like that moment of just like, I remember that, and that's really hard to go through. So I know there are some people like his family, like his kids, grandchildren, who are hurting over the fact that he is lost. There's also a whole bunch of people who are hurting over the fact that, you know, they had loved ones killed. So it's again, he left behind a very complicated legacy, but I think we had to bring up the fact that he passed away. It's a major sports story as well. In addition to that, we'll end with some more basketball news really quick. First, Jonte Porter banned from the NBA for life for gambling. Just idiotic. We talked about it before when it came up, and now he got his punishment. Banned for life.
And like so the thing that got flagged the first time is that he exited a game. I think it was March 20th game. He exited a game after like 3 minutes, said he was ill. Whatever betting site this happened on, like they noticed that somebody had put down $80,000 on Jonte Porter unders. Those hit, and then they would have won $1.1 million. And they were like, I'm gonna flag that. And then they looked into it and investigated, and finally, like they kind of linked it somehow to Jonte Porter. Basically, he gave insider information to a gambler, like, hey, whether it's I'm not feeling well or I'm gonna tell them I'm not feeling well, you should bet my unders. They do that, and then like that sets off the chain reaction. It's like, first of all, anybody putting down $80,000 on a two-way player's prop bets, that's gonna raise red flags. Like it's just stupid and greedy to even think that you would get away with that in the first place. But in the course of their investigation, they found that he had his own account that he was using to make bets. At various times, I don't think that he ever bet on a game. I don't think he ever personally bet on a game that he played in for the Raptors. But when he would be in the G League, he did bet against Toronto to lose in part of a parlay. I'm trying to remember what else were the highlights from that. I know essentially like he's wagered like almost $60,000 and he wound up winning 21. So it's like you just threw away an entire NBA career for $21,000. Like that's just, it's unnecessary, it's stupid, it's greedy. But one thing I'm trying to keep in mind is that gambling addiction, if this is gambling addiction, which you would think that you would hope that it is, to be quite honest, like it's a real disease and it's something that they can't necessarily control, and it's something that's so much easier to do and to get wrapped up in now because of like the ubiquity of sports gambling platforms and like how much is pushed in the leagues and whatnot. So it's not an excuse, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind where it's like, you're so stupid, why would you do that? It's like there's more to it than just like a rational like, oh, I'm gonna win some money and do, you know, like there's chemical stuff.
If gambling addiction,
if that's the case.
Yeah, if that's the case, for sure. U.S. basketball, we got the Olympic roster announcement. LeBron, James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, who he had countries fighting over him. Like they was like, no, you come hoop for us. You know what I'm saying? But he ultimately went with USA. We got Jason Tatum, we got Kawhi Leonard, we got Devin Booker, Jrue Holiday, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Bam Adebayo, and Tyrese Halliburton. A completely stacked team. I've seen some people be like, they're gonna lose, and I was like, that's a great team to send to the Olympics to represent the country. They're gonna have some comp for sure, but they put together a really solid roster in my opinion.
Quick question for you: who starts?
It's a great question. That's a great question. I feel like LeBron and KD and Embiid is like your bigs there. Drew Holiday was so important for them in like the FIBA stuff. Like we saw the value of having him out there on the court. Tyrese Halliburton's gonna be able to set everybody up. Like he's your point guard. You might put Drew next to him. I could see that being a starting lineup.
So Steph off the bench.
Have that Steph off the bench. Then I have no. That's difficult. I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me go. Steph, Drew, LeBron, KD, Embiid. Halliburton off the bench.
That's my thought too. The only thing that throws a wrinkle in that a little bit is Kawhi. Like I don't know if Kawhi has the stature, but again, it's like if you put Kawhi in, who you bump in? Like maybe it's Drew, but then like that kind of throws off your roster. I mean, your lineup composition a little bit. I don't know. That's where I start. But then also it's like if Tatum wins the title, can you really take Tatum off the bench? And like
for your country, yes, of course. You gotta sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Sacrifice
Steve
for
Kerr
the
is
goal.
the coach, right?
Yes.
I think Steve Kerr is the coach now. Like I don't envy him like having to have those conversations with people. Like actually, like I think KD, Steph, and I think KD and LeBron are probably locks to start. Like LeBron definitely, KD probably. Steph, I think Steve Kerr may be able to leverage like
his relationship,
like their personal relationship to kind of massage that a little bit. But I don't know. It's tough. I have no idea.
That is tough. I'm gonna it's gonna be curious to see how that shakes out. Dustin providing an update, and he is absolutely right. I have it on my iPad, but it is a close game in Philly right now. Miami is up 1. Kelly Oubre's at the free throw line, and it's all tied up at 76. 76 points, y'all, in the fourth quarter. It's 9.5 minutes left in the game. So some defense being played and some shots being missed. Okay, last thing on the agenda for us. Wait, go ahead.
I was saying how much time is left. I see it's 9 minutes.
Yeah, 9.5 minutes left. WNBA draft happened. One of the most, I believe it was the most watched WNBA draft of all time. Caitlin Clark went number 1 to the Indiana Fever. Cameron Brink to the Sparks. Chicago got a new front court with Camila Cardosa and Angel Reese. Like, some talent was added into the NBA or WNBA this offseason. The WNBA season kicks off in less than a month, May 14th. And I'm going to have to get some Sky tickets and head down there and catch some games. Hopefully, I can also catch an Indiana game. I want to see Caitlin Clark in person for sure as well. But
it's crazy. Like I can't quote you off top, but like they're so to the point where like Chicago fans are kind of asking them to move it to like the Indiana games to the United Center because like the Skies, I think it's Wintrust Arena seats 10,000, whereas United Center seats 21,000. So you do the math there. It's pretty easy. So hopefully, like if they do choose to go that route, which I don't know what would go into that, but if they do choose that route, then hopefully that frees up more tickets so that we actually can go. Because I would be interested to see that. I've been trying to get to a Sky game, I think for like the last 2-3 years. I think it was when Candace went there, so maybe it's 3 years ago now. But WNBA is and WNBA and women's basketball in general is definitely on an upward trajectory, which I appreciate, but also like that's come with some downsides of people that are not at all informed or are just assholes and misogynists that are now talking about the league and talking about women's basketball. That's just like draining. Like there was a weird exchange during, I don't know if you saw that, but there was a weird exchange during Caitlin's introductory press conference today.
So cringe. Like that's women in sports have to deal with some things that a lot of like men just don't. And that's one of those moments where I was just like, and everybody laughed afterwards because it was like that uncomfortable, like what else can I do but laugh in this situation to kind of play this off and keep this moving forward. But it's some weird stuff that happens. Like I'm not anywhere near as famous as Caitlin Clark, and I be seeing like I get some weird stuff thrown my way where I'm like, what? So I can only like it's wild. It's wild. But real quick to rewind about you mentioning how there were Sky fans hoping that they moved the game to the United Center. I did see the Aces actually move their Indiana games to a different venue to accommodate more fans. So like it's on the table. I feel like that it could be something that could happen, assuming the United Center isn't booked on those 2 days when the Fever come into town. All right.
Yeah, no, like Caitlin's a different, and like that's why like so many again like it's brought on a bunch of conversations with people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but it's like Caitlyn being on SNL, they're like, well, how come the winners never get to be on S? It's because like Caitlyn is a fucking star. Like it's different. Yeah. Like she's bringing eyeballs to SNL. She's bringing eyeballs to the Women's Final Four. She's bringing eyeballs to the WNBA. So it's like, yeah, she's gonna be treated differently. Like the big three offered her $5 million. It's not just like, oh, the novelty of having a woman in the league. It's because like they know Caitlyn Clark brings fans. She brings eyeballs. She brings in money. She's worth, like, not to bring it down to just like monetary value, but like they do these calculations. Like they understand, like the business implications of doing business with Caitlyn Clark. Like there's a reason why 2.4 million people tuned into the WNBA draft this, on Monday, because like people want to see Caitlyn Clark get drafted.
She's a draw.
She's a draw. Like that's what it comes down to. It's not some grand conspiracy because she's the white savior or whatever the hell like you think that is going on. It's like, no, she's a star, and this is what comes with having stars. So like hopefully the WNBA can capitalize that and make bigger stars out of the people that are already in the league or the women that are coming up behind her. Like this could be like their Michael Jordan. This can be like their Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, where it's like this, it takes like a small, like a company or a league in their infancy and catapults them into like a different stratosphere of popularity. Hopefully, that's the hope. I'm not saying like she's the Michael Jordan of women's basketball, but I'm saying from star power perspective, she could be, maybe, like she's already shown to be that in college basketball. So,
and it's already, the early returns are showing that it's carrying over to the WNBA as well. So like, it's one of those things where it's like not to get mad about, like it's actually to be like, okay, we got somebody who's going to bring more eyes on the product. And all the other stars that we have, because there are a lot of talented players in the W, and they're going to be able to be shown to an even wider audience who's tuning in to see Caitlyn Clark, and they're going to be like, oh shoot, like I didn't even realize.
Shit, Asia Wilson. You know what I mean? Like
who's Mia Boston? Or like, oh, she kind of cold. Like I think it's a good thing for the W. So I'm excited for the season. My WNBA League Pass is already renewed for the year. I'm ready to go. So all that being said, we'll wrap up here. Yeah, it's not even expensive, y'all. Like get WNBA League Pass. Like people have been complaining about the salaries. That's come up in conversation because there's more people, as you mentioned, who are now in the conversation who weren't before, and they're genuinely shocked to see what they make. And one way, if you want to change that, tune into the games, buy the League Pass. Buy merch, like support the league, and we will see those salaries increase over time. So it's really a great place to wrap up this week. You can catch me. Oh, there's no Tim on Instagram, Twitter, these PSN 2K and Final Fantasy Streets at Camille Monet, CAMILLE MONAE.
At Bucksburn on Twitter.
That's all you get.
That's it.
And then Tim, he already gave you his before he left. Candace K. Harris 216 on a couple things, and everyday _gentleman on something else. I'm sorry, Ken. I still don't remember after all of these years which ones are which. Do you remember?
I do, but he can do it himself when he's here. So
all right, hey, I'm with that. But we gonna talk to y'all next week. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all be safe. Have a good one, y'all. Have a good one. I ain't got the outro music because that dude should be playing that. So we gonna be out.